And for the best of that, one must venture above 110th Street to the neighbourhood they call Harlem. There, a gentleman can seek out the company of like-minded gentlemen while listening to the best jazz in the world. So, as you can imagine, as I lay in bed one bright May morning, sipping my first reviving cup of coffee, proper tea being beyond my man Beauregard's otherwise extensive capabilities, I was taken aback when the man himself knocked on my door and announced that I had a visitor. "He's an English gentleman, sir," said he. Now, all my acquaintances, both English and American, know better than to bother old Augustus before the noon bell, so I did rather wonder who this might be. An unaccountable ripple of apprehension passed over the normally placid surface of my morning routine. But I manfully rose above such turbulence. English visitors are not unheard of, and the steamers did have a habit of docking at an ungodly hour, and so the poor blighter, a stranger in a strange land, might be in need of succour. And let it never be said of Augustus Berrycloth-Young that he did not rise to the occasion when it came time to cross the street and offer help. Once I was suitably bathed and fortified, that is. Had I known the truth of it, I would have immediately hidden under my bed and instructed Beauregard to inform my visitor that I had been struck down by the plague during the night. Instead, I took another sip of the blessed, dark fruit of the bean. "Does this gentleman have a name?" I asked. Mr. Thomas Nightingale," said Beauregard. Now, readers of what I suppose I might call my oeuvre might already be familiar with magic, the demi-monde, and the folly, but for those of you who have unaccountably hitherto avoided the outpourings of my pen, I shall briefly explain. Back in the age of enormous wigs, Sir Isaac Newton took time off between inventing gravity and hanging counterfeiters to discover magic. He entrusted this knowledge to a fine, upstanding body of gentlemen who formed the Society of the Wise, known to all those in the know as the Folly, from the famous poem, because our illustrious forebears liked to joke as much as the next man. As was the vogue in those days, they founded a school to pass their wisdom on to the next generation, and it was to this prestigious institution that young Augustus was entrusted in the summer of 1914. It's become fashionable to bemoan one's school days, to dwell upon the canings, the cold, and the loneliness, but I must say I had a jolly time at school, made some very good chums, and, most importantly of all, learnt magic. You may be thinking, magic, Gussie, my dear boy, there's no such thing. And that would be because, as a respectable graduate of Casterbrook, and a member in good standing with the Folly, I am duty-bound to keep the existence of magic hush-hush, sub rosa, and on, as they might say here in New York, the down low. Magic in the wrong hands, or even in no hands at all, can be a dangerous thing, and it was the Folly who was charged with keeping the peace, maintaining order, and ensuring the nation's horses went unaffrighted. This solemn task had made the old sticks at the Folly a grim and humorless bunch, who tended to look askance whenever a young wizard, in a moment of exuberance, applied his mighty art to the task of de-helmeting the local constabulary, crockering troublesome strangers, or acquiring refreshments at Cheltenham by levitating bottles of champagne away from their coolers. As I mentioned at the beginning, it was to avoid their opprobrium for such a similar, trifling matter that I crossed the Atlantic in the first place. Therefore, you can imagine my trepidation upon being informed that the Folly's chief Bruno, the man they send forth into the world to solve problems and shoot trouble, one Thomas Nightingale, Esquire, was even now loitering at my door. Still, we graduates of Casterbrook are bywords for fortitude, and rather than fleeing down the fire escape, I instead